You know what? I am starting to love to start these episodes of In and Out with Professor Yalman with music. I don't know why, but I think I will start doing a music program here as well, Arda. Uh, from TED University Ankara Studios, In and Out with Professor Yalman at Radio TEDU. As promised, summer of 2025, episode 2, with my experiences of what happened this summer. Yes, I'm starting to love these entrances with sound and music. I think I'm going to do the same thing when I have guests here as of next week. But in our previous episode, I was talking about 5 different subjects of my experimentation and experiences and evolvement in the summer. Yes, we're in autumn right now. As you can see, I have my beanie on. You have to keep the head warm. My grandma used to say, if you keep your head warm, your toes warm, and your belly warm, you will never get sick, she used to say. And she used to add, you should also put a scarf on your neck. That was her formula, actually, for being healthy throughout the change of seasons. God bless her. May God rest her. May God have her rest in peace. She was a very, very loving woman who actually was from Macedonia, and I used to grow up with listening to her stories of her childhood and her love to her land, Ohrid, in Macedonia now, where her childhood was actually rosy and flourishing. But she had a nice life. She passed away when she was 97, and with all that wisdom, she told us many, many things, which was actually related to the endurances and changes in life. And this summer, this was also my experience, the shift and change of mentality occurring when things started happening, which were totally against actually your expectations or your thoughts or your act of being, etc. Anyways, today's subjects are a bit different. I want to start with actually the internal ignition to go through conditions. So all of a sudden this summer, when all these different shifts were occurring, the power and stamina that you find within was greater than the influential aspects of from the external or from without. So you all of a sudden leave the dependency to any other person. You leave the dependency to any other drug. You leave the dependency of any other form of mood or seasonality, etc. You start igniting yourself as you wake up in the morning with the stamina and juices of your cellular system. So whatever your cellular system, your cells intake throughout that day, with your act of dealings with nature and food and movement, etc., it sort of corresponds to actually the internal development of that ignition of that fire, which sort of keeps you or ignites you the morning that you wake up, and it keeps you sort of alive. So that was one experience to sort of formulating this very intangible thing to a very tangible thing in writing a formula of how it is. For example, in my perception class, when I talk about perception, we talk about something very intangible, but then when I ask them about a problem that they're facing in life and how they can solve that problem with a shift of perception and ask them to write a formula to that, they can make this intangible aspect of perception into a very tangible aspect of formalizing it. So when you start formalizing things in life, for example, your path in life, your process in life, or your milestones in life, and when you start formalizing that, you can take that formula, and from that formula you can derive objectives and key performance indicators and put that into a different calendar. In this startup of mine, we're working on that right now with the integration of artificial intelligence. But that's a different story of a different episode. I cannot move on in terms of my delivery about that right now. But it's a bit secretive as well. But at the end of the day, that formalization of the intangible to tangible is a very, very important aspect. And that was actually me understanding my internal ignition and formalizing that. My internal ignition is actually prosperity, any prosperity in anything in life, which equals to actually wealth. Not in just money, but wealth in food, wealth in people, wealth in nature, etc. Plus wisdom, and that multiplied by health. So when you put all that into a bracket and you put love above that, so you love that. And then if you put every other thing in that into the bigger brackets and put the consent of the system, there you have the process of your ignition into a formula to understand your intangible aspects of actually dealing with things, going through a day or going through life is as a process and making it tangible for you. So this was a huge discovery and experimentation for me in terms of trying to formalize that. Another thing which I sort of experienced was trying things for the first time. I usually when I go into class, I ask this question: when was the last time you did something for the first time? And people sort of get dazzled and puzzled about this question. I'm asking you as well here now online. When was the last time you did something for the first time? For me, this summer was something like that, because I tried things which I said I would never try, and for the first time, and I did that. For example, I went through things, especially in kite surfing, through things that I thought I could not sort of process it and put it into implementation. But trying it for the first time, I saw that the entire sensory system and my nervous system and my muscular system molds itself towards the act of processing that, trying. So when you try something for the first time, and when you make this a habit of yours, a learning process of yours, then you start teaching yourself learning with questioning and reasoning. So your entire system responds to that in a way where narration disappears, but an interactive, adaptive learning occurs through trying something for the first time. So I can relate that in anything, trying some food for the first time, some drink for the first time, or talking to some sort of different brain for the first time, or getting to know a person that you would thought you would never, sort of click for the first time, or love somebody who is actually in a different state of mind and place and being for the first time. I can jump from a plane for the first time, a jump from a cliff for the first time, etc. So all this is actually an indicative, healthy process of adaptive learning through not a monologue or narration, but more so of an interaction of that topic, that daring, with your entire sensory, muscular, and nervous system. So that was another thing about this summer. Um, Another topping was giving in for the sake of winning out. So we sometimes we say to ourselves, I would never give in to this topic. I would never give in this debate. I would never accept actually this or that, because that would be a declaration of loss. No, but you know what? If you don't see that as a loss, if you see that as a gain, all of a sudden giving in becomes the process of moving out of that with winning out. So if you give in, you might be winning. So imagine yourself that pulling rope, a group, two groups pulling rope, and if you pull all the time, the tension doesn't bring you anything, and there's this tiring process or boring process after a while, and it hurts, but at the same time it's not exciting anymore. It becomes very stagnant, etc. But if you leave some rope, if you let that rope a bit loose, and then that other side thinks within their process, oh my God, I am winning, I am gaining, and then you pull on to that rope, the winning out process is more, or even letting them win after that pain, but you being very healthy or dignitively fresh, coming out of that process is a huge winning out, because the opposition tires out, and you're there very fresh and bright, and having learned from actually their egoistic, enduring, stubbornness. So giving in debate, giving in yoga, giving in to the wind when you're kite surfing, giving in to your breath, giving in when you're sick, accepting that, and that surrendering feeling is not losing. It's winning. It's winning in a different dimension. So that was another very interesting thing for me as I let myself giving in debates and frequency movements in yoga and kite surfing, and even like with my dog, when the dog insisted on something, and rather than me pulling and start trying to disciplining Odie, my big dog, I gave in, and all of a sudden I was the winner at the end, because Odie was more appreciative in the next round of our dealings, in terms of trust, in terms of love, in terms of acceptance. Another thing was, people whom you thought they would. And so we have this thing in life where we think, we bank on, we depend on, or we can trust on people, and they will be always with us, But this summer I saw that even your closest people around you, where you have banked, even the closest people you have banked on, that they will be there for you, they weren't. And they have all their reasons. I'm not sort of blaming anybody or because of their actions, whatever. But that gave me a systematic analogy of what's happening. Let's say life brings you things that you wanted or you dreamed of, and those are within the reach of your grip, but they're not in your hands. Let's assume they're at the horizon on an island. Let's say there's a house, there's your love, there's your work, there's the money, there is education, whatever you want to put, okay? And you are on a raft on the sea, miles away from that horizon, but you can see the horizon. You can see actually those individual things that actually were part of your dreams, part of your desires, etc. And you're on this raft, and all of a sudden, something happens that your engine breaks, or your sails are down, or you don't have any paddles, or your only one paddle sort of broke, and you see familiar boats, sailboats or rowing boats or motor boats, whatever, crossing you, and you say, "Oh, I know you. Can you just lend me a paddle, or can you give me only one little bit of your engine or dinghy's engine, whatever, or pair of your sails?" And even though they can easily do this, okay, because they don't need that extra engine, they don't need that extra paddle, they don't need that extra sail, they're already flowing in prosperity and in action, whatever, they can come back to you and say no. They can come back to you and say, "I cannot share this with you. I cannot give this." And you thought they would, because in the past you've done this for them in many formats, and they were dear to you, and you were also very fond of your giving process. But you know what the trick is? When they say no, you should not be erasing those people or having rage towards those people. And you should not be panicking on that raft. Because what is going to be given to you in that process is there. You can see the island, the horizon. And you have to trust that if you see it, something will take you there. So that something is not going to be someone. It's not going to be any of those boats or any of those conditions of what you had with those people in the past. It's not going to be any of those acquaintances. It's going to be actually how you went through that process of what you call loneliness. What did you do with that loneliness? What did you do with that moment of despair of you thought everything was over? How did you go through that process? And how did you evolve through those conditions? So, did you trust the system? Did you let go? Did you understand that the only thing actually would be there for you would be you and the creative system? I'm including God in there. I'm including your creativity in there. I'm including your personal innovative skills in there. I'm talking about the creative system as such. So if you can trust that it's not the person, or it's not the acquaintance, it's not the past, but since you can see what's out there, you'll be carried to that. Either a different door being opened to you, a different portal, a different letting go process of your mind of dealing and understanding things. It's more the wisdom, actually, rather than, "Oh, you know what, I'm going to take my revenge." No. Those are old school. Those are very horrific and distractive and negative thoughts and energies, which would actually even take you further from that horizon that you're looking at. So for me, it was very interesting when, in times where I was needy this summer, to see that those boats and sailboats and whatever, which I thought I could bank on disappearing, but me appreciating that and flowing in a way in my own evolution of my understanding of the systematic creation where if I can see it, I will be taken towards to that horizon. I just need to understand how the system works. I heard about a saying which said, you asked for sunshine and God gave you rain. If you can understand the beauty of that rain when we're asking for sunshine, I think that's the trick in life. The great thinker, philosopher Yunus Emre, he has a very nice actually experience in this. I've read. He went to the dervish and said, can you give me wheat? A big container of wheat. The dervish said, let me give you breath. Yunus said, no, I want wheat. The dervish said, let me give you breath. And as Yunus took the wheat and started walking, it was so tiring for him, where he understood that actually he was in need of the breath rather than a bag of wheat. So I think that was actually a very enlightening moment for me to remember this summer, as I thought I was on that raft. Yes, I've been talking about the summer. I'm going to wrap up where, when you can make lists of letting go in life. You can, do balance sheets of things rather than numbers in life. You can decide upon where you're going to be moving in, moving out in life. All those are acts of things occurring to you upon actually the things that you call. So if you're a magnet, you call with your thoughts, with your ideas, with your decisions, those things. But regardless of those things, you will be going through a systematic shift of evolution to deal with life and your process of life in your life with actually the destination that actually you're destined in life. Having said that, I want to wrap this session of summer. So it had 2 episodes. I think this sort of wraps it up. I hope it was as enthusiastic for you as it was for me. We can talk about this in question and answer format in different episodes. And from Ankara, TED University, Radio TED U Studios, In and Out with Professor Yalman will continue with more episodes and episodes with guests as we go along this new season. So be in tuned and ask your questions to us, to yourselves. Reasoning will be the key for you going and shifting from your ecosystems to the ecosystems where we bloom.